Hello, this is Sam at Preform Labs. In this video, I want to show how to set up restorative dental models updated for the Model V3 launch recently. Even though I made content like this previously, there's been some changes in Preform and sort of also some guidance overall, and try to hopefully make it simple and quick here. The latest Preform actually has changed the job setup menu, and I wanted to show that just before we get started here. If you go up to the top right here, it looks quite different. One really nice thing though is it does have a recently used part of the menu now. So when you start using your material, say model or dental LT Clear V2 or whatever it might be, they will always be on the top, so it'll be really fast and easy to get those materials that you use quite often. But here, so step one here is we're choosing the printer type, and you can see the summary here over on the left, and you can quickly get to these variables if you need, but I'm going to be using a Form 3B. We're going to be using model V3. That's good. Scroll down, and then you pick a layer thickness here. So 100 microns, 50 microns, whatever it might be. And then you can also, put a job name in right here, so example or something like that. And like I said, over on the left, you can get a quick summary and read just through, make sure all that looks good. And if you can click actually on the different parts to scroll to that part of the job setup menu. So once that's in place, hit apply. And if you do set a name there, it's really easy to save it out. Just hit Control S or come up here and File and save once you have parts there. And it's ready to move on, and you're ready to set up this job for that material type, and you don't have to mess around with changing supports if you go back and forth. First thing I'd like to point out is I like to have sort of an understanding of the build platform and make sure I do it as consistently as possible. And consistency is key here. If we're aiming to have a consistent result, we should have some sort of like fundamental consistency in the way we set things up. And the way I like to sort of look at it or think about it is I'm going to be using my view tools up here on the top right quite a bit, but I will snap to a top view. This is some important sort of landmarks here in Preform and job setup. So this is the front of the build platform. This is the mixer side of the build platform. So what I like to do is make sure I'm always sort of like considering the way I'm putting parts in with these two landmarks and orientation positions. So here I've got my two sets of files. These are both output from 3Shape. Exocad, fundamentally this is the same overall sort of considerations and consistencies I'm going to try to imply here, but both sets of these are generated in 3Shape, and they have solid models, so non-removable abutment parts and then removable die parts. So you'll see how to sort of work with both here. But we've got a full arch case here, and then we've got a quad set here with one prep. The full arch has a 3-unit bridge on the interior, and then a single first molar prep. So it's a what is that? A 4-unit sort of case setup, all on the upper jaw. And so we're going to drag in our 6 files here for this case. If this ever comes up, broken models detected, just always repair. I've never seen it sort of hurt a part before, so there's really no harm in it. And what it's really doing is if it's finds any degeneracies or any holes or anything, it's just going to fill them and make sure we're successfully printing. So as you can see here, as I explained, we have a solid or a fixed abutment model and then the removable die model, and then the working dies for both. So if you wanted a secondary working die for the solid or non-removable abutment, or then an insertable die, it's the same abutment file here. And then the opposing or the antagonist. So first and foremost, again, considering the front and the mixer side, I always, to be as consistent as possible in my workflows and doing them in a similar way, I always like to have my the back of the model, the posterior most part of the model facing either the mixer side or the opposing side like this. And so I'll put the two uppers end to end here. So something like that. And you notice I've always got the sort of anterior facing towards the middle consistently in these job setups. And then here's the opposing or the antagonist. And I'll just do the same. Make sure I've got enough room for both of them like this. And you can have them pushed against the side here. That's the nice thing about this orientation is This articulated backing, while it's important, of course, it's accurate, and it will be. If you have it right up against the side, there's no issue here. It's not like an abutment area or something like that. That's sort of my thinking here. So this is arches. These are both set up in good positions, and this is quite easy. I mean, these are pretty much done and ready to go as is in these positions. One more important thing is, as you noticed probably, that I didn't really change much about these models. I just changed the position, and they came in perfectly flat to the build platform. And that's the way we want to print them, with no supports, flat to the build platform, just as like this. But that might not always be the situation. And there's one thing I want to point out, and also one way to make sure or be able to check these types of things. So if this model is out of a different CAD, or say it just came in at the different orientation like this, if you want this to be flat to the build platform, the really easiest way to do this is in the orientation button over here on the left. We're going to do the select to base tool, and this allows you to just click on the bottom of the model. It snaps that down perfectly flat. And then the way to check it is using the slicing tool. This is this slider over here on the right where it sort of virtually prints the job. You want to make sure, and you can use the arrow keys to go up by one increment at a time. You want to make sure the total base of the part is being printed in layer 1. Really quick on the example side here is, if let's just say this was really just slightly tilted like this, right? Just a hair, like a degree or two. You can start to see here, it's really the first layer is actually not complete here. So this is going to have reliability issues, print issues, and then resulting in inaccurate part as well. So you want to make sure these models are printing completely flat to the build platform, and checking them, and then snapping down again if it's coming in the incorrect orientation to begin with. But before moving on to dies, I'm just going to be turning off the visual representation of these models. They're still here, but with them selected, you can turn them on and off on the model list. And I want to do that to give a clearer view of these abutments and a couple things that I would just do. This is a little bit extra, but I've really found, again, consistency in setup really does mean consistent prints. And I don't care what type of 3D printer that is. Just having a sort of clear rules of the road and a way to do it is just going to, consistency in the front end will have consistency in the back end, right? So I'm using my view tool here, and I'm snapping to a side view. And the reason I'm doing this is because, as you can see, these dies are slightly rotated, the two anteriors here, but then the posterior is like rotated as much as 45 degrees. I'm just going to grab this sort of equator tool here to rotate and make sure these walls are parallel with the front or the mixer side of the build platform. And again, this is just to make sure we're as consistent, and we're doing this the same for each job, which then should lead to consistency in output. Sorry if a bit repetitive there. But so now look, I'm rotating over to this side, and you can see you do that one view, and now we've got pretty squared up and parallel to these mixer sides and also the front side, just like that. And once you have that positioned like that, which was very quick and easy to do, you just select your parts and you auto-generate on selected parts. One nice thing is, especially if you're switching around settings or fiddling with the support values, good idea just to hit reset. And we're just going to do a full raft, just the default settings on a new model V3 resin, and auto-generate. And it really does a good job. We've optimized the support densities and positionings to really not have to do any manual placing. So let me turn the arches back on here. So that's the full kit here. And one thing with rafts I'll mention, you can certainly save yourself a little bit of space by overlapping them. And as long as they're not running into each other, that's totally good. So this is a fine setup. And then going to go back to my top view, and I'll just drag these towards the middle of the build platform in this empty space there. And this is a good setup for this full arch case. This is ready to print, send over to your printer, and good to go. I also recommend saving these jobs out. Next, I'm going to show the quad. Fundamentally the same thing, but I thought it'd be valuable just to show it really quick. here are my files again. So I've done the full arch here, and then here's a single preparation quad model, again out of 3 shape. And you'll notice these come in again, sort of a little bit all over the place, but I'm just going to take the same fundamentals. So I'm going to put the back of the model, or where the articulator or the posterior most molar is, and put that towards either the mixer side or the opposing side. And I'm just going to rotate this one really quickly with my handles there and do the same, so they're sort of facing or positioned in front of each other. And then the antagonist here, again, just do the same thing. That looks good. And then my die, it is rotated, so I'm going to take my view tool up here again on the right. Now this is a good front view, so I'll grab this equator handle here. Boom, done. That's good. Auto generate on that die, and you're good to go. So that's generated, that's ready to go. You can put it somewhere like there, and as you can see, got lots of room for more models, or you can print it just like this, and it's good to go. So this quad model is set up. You can add more in from here, or just print this as is. One last trick here is if you want the fastest print time, one tip is to actually put all your models towards the mixer side. It's not a huge difference in print time, but it adds up. So one option here, if you want it to be absolutely the fastest print possible for this job, 100 microns is always a good option, in my opinion. But if you put all the arches and models on the mixer side, even if you tuck this die in right there, that would be the fastest setup in this situation, because the mixer and the LPU from this mixer side only has to go over this far, and then it goes back and continues the next layer and so forth and so on. So it saves you sort of the movement of the LPU all the way over to the other side, which can add up again. So that's it. That's the quad model. It's set up, and this file is good to go. You can sort of print as is, or add more models, or do them all at once, whatever you prefer. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.